Hey there, welcome back. It's Louisa Munson from Astrology, and I was sent a cry for help. Actually, somebody wrote me a very heartfelt comment on one of my videos. It was my September forecast, and so I'm going to just start by reading it out because this video is to answer this query to the best of my abilities. So let's bring this into the chart. So ShareKindness has said, "Hi Louisa, wondering if you could set my mind at ease if possible. There is a video from a very popular Vedic astrologer that something very dramatic may occur around the 23rd, 24th of September. I've not watched those videos and I won't, as I'm currently unwell and dealing with a lot of extra anxiety as it is. It could be the Sun-Mars transit, but this occurs every year, albeit in different signs. What could cause this to be so much more worrying? It's on a global axis, as I know, but can it be as dire as it sounds?" Sorry, my reading's terrible. "Is there anything you could mention to bring some balance to such forecasts? I'm having lots of activations in my chart this past month. I know I'm not alone experiencing these energies, but I'm going through so much. And in September and October, there's more transits to my personal planets. I'm absolutely exhausted already. I'm a Virgo sun." You got Mercury retrograde there right now. "Venus, 21 degrees. And Pluto, 29. They have got a 29-degree Capricorn rising. And Pluto is there right now. I think we found our culprit. But anyway, Venus ended its retrograde on my Leo South Node." Yeah, I'm noticing that, and I will talk about that in a sec. "It's feeling very psychological and health related, and also the health of my partner. And Uranus is transiting my natal IC2. Okay. I haven't actually got their time of birth. So I did this chart from the very best understanding that I had based on what they shared with me. Is there anything you can shine a light to help understand what these energies could be? I haven't watched the news for a few years for my own sanity. I don't blame you. But to see this pop up from a popular Vedic astrologer that I stopped following ages ago because of so many predictions, it's rattling my nerves a lot. Perhaps it's partly because I'm feeling so very sensitive and worn down right now. Some comments that were there were that there are a lot of catastrophic films that use this date in them. I'm trying to stay in a positive headspace, but I'm really struggling. Thanks for all your positive input and videos." You're very welcome. I hope you find this one as positive. First of all, oh my goodness, where do I start? I really want to help as best I can. And I put in a search because I guess the first thing that occurs to me is what you're looking for is what you'll find. Even if you're not looking for it, it's almost like if we've had an internal listening for trauma, an internal listening for healing, an internal listening for disaster, an internal listening for things, it is what comes up. A bit like the law of attraction, what you think about, you bring about. And so I did a search for like the 23rd, 24th of September, big changes. And here's what came up. Well, these are the main ones. See, this one looks very calm and doesn't look like it's very shocking. And that was at the top of my search because I don't really see too many things that are shocking because I use Telegram for that, actually. So that's probably why I don't see it on my YouTube. But then came these ones. So I don't know if this was the Vedic astrologer that you're mentioning, but they are all over the place, saying shocking event, changes the world, the most important month, weekly predictions, a big bang, massive event. And then there's another person saying unexpected in September, somebody else saying the final sign. And all of those words capture our attention. And if you are of a nervous disposition, naturally, or you're just going through a time when you are particularly nervous and worn out, this is going to get your headspace, isn't it? Now, you gave me the clue earlier when you said like Pluto is currently at 29 degrees Capricorn, which is where her ascendant is. That is just absolutely the biggest mind trauma that anyone can go through. A similar one is when Pluto goes over the sun or when Pluto goes over the moon. And then lesser times are when it goes over the other angles. Then maybe Mercury, you might get a bit depressed. Venus, it can be a bit chaotic, though I met my husband when Pluto got onto my Venus. But Pluto crossing the ascendant marks a change in our I guess it's just been in the 12th. So at some level, it is representing our inner psychology. If you think probably, it moves roughly 10 to 15 degrees, sometimes as many as 20 through each of the houses. You'd have had Pluto going through your 12th house for quite some time, which can really deplete your energy levels and often make you feel like you have to hide away and gather your strength in private. You have to be quite private in becoming strong and powerful. And sometimes you have to be strong and powerful in secret because of manipulations and things. Now, I will share with you, ShareKindness shared a bit more information about her backstory, like her date of birth, not the time of birth, where she was born, and some of her experiences of feeling very much, I would say, abused in her relationship. And there's, this is written publicly, so I could share it, but I feel like I don't want to share it because it's very private and personal, but it's very much about caring for a long-term partner with disability, and the trauma and the difficulty that brings up, and the how abusive that can be, having that power imbalance of being there to serve somebody else. Interestingly, I've just answered a question about that somebody had written that was very fatalistic about being the mum of an autistic child, being the parent of an autistic child if you have Uranus in the 5th house. So it's interesting that these two themes come up for me, and I feel like I want to answer them and help. So we've got two questions that have come up for viewers that are kind of fatalistic, about fatalistic astrology, and also deeply about the relationship between the self and the feeling that we need to care for another, and the difficulties that we have in being able to feel good whilst assisting others. So it's a big old tough subject. Now, I'm not a huge fan of these fatalistic astrologers, and I may well get, I guess if I put these titles that people had written in their comments to me as titles, that could also create a fatalistic response where people are going into this massive shock. But right now, that's not my mission. My mission is to help people feel good and to use astrology to enhance their lives, to find greater freedom, to feel a greater sense of clarity and control. I mean, what can we control? All we can control is how we choose to feel about ourselves and what we put out in the world. I mean, you never know when someone meaner, tougher, bigger than you with more resources could have it in for you. A bit like ants. They don't necessarily know when there's going to be a school trip and a load of kids with a magnifying glass on a sunny day. They have no idea. They're just going about their business and they don't know when they're going to get picked off. And I guess, with this feeling that there might be this catastrophe or this big change that's coming up, there could be this feeling that you're about to be picked off one by one. You don't know when it's going to strike, but you've been told it's the 23rd and 24th. Now, the thing is that could happen any single day for the last 3 years or so. In fact, for longer, because I have a slight interest in monitoring alternative news as well as paying a bit of attention to what's being sown in the main media. I'm always noticing the contrast between the two. I notice right now that in the mainstream media, they are sowing the seeds for war, World War III. I think we're already in it personally, but that's just my opinion. But they're sowing the seeds for an actual bona fide war. They're already sowing seeds as to who's to blame for it. They're also sowing seeds for massive storms and massive trauma. And there's a lot about weather. And there's also the new one, the new reconstituted story about COVID. Interestingly, they've used the name Eris, given that Eris, who you can chart in astrology, is in a conjunction with the North Node right now and will be pretty much all the way through October, just as they're announcing that. That's not a mistake. And also, I've seen news about a viral virus pyrola. It's apparently an offshoot of COVID. Again, there's an asteroid pyrola. What are the chances that, these things, whatever stories are being sown they always show up astrologically somehow. So the fact that there's a lot of sowing the seeds, and we've got an equinox coming up, an equinox points where it goes 0 degrees of the cardinal signs like Aries, Libra, Capricorn, and I missed one out, Aries, Cancer, Libra and Capricorn. You're probably all going, shut up, you missed Cancer. So we're coming up to the start of Libra, but these 0 points are very, very delicate in the balance of humanity. They show us our new season. They give us a description of the new season arc, like there's a storyline arc, like your favorite Netflix, you watch it and each episode has a different theme, but they all interconnect into a great big story arc. So I see the equinox as being the new story arc for the next, season. So what I want to do is just have a look at the story arc of the equinox, and examine if there's anything that different. I'm not a Vedic astrologer, so I'm not going to see things from a Vedic way. And obviously, the one I showed in those examples might not be the one that's slightly scared you. So, I may not give it the same importance that maybe a Vedic astrologer would, but I'm looking at it with my own fresh, independent eyes and trying to be as non-biased as possible, which is very difficult for a Scorpio, Ascendant, Sagittarius, Moon in Pisces with lots of attitude and opinions. So forgive me those. Right. So my immediate thoughts, astrology is a tool and it's as good as the person using the tool. And some astrologers can use it to scare you and to get higher ratings. And that is their free choice. That might be what delights them, and they may really believe in their message and may really believe that keeping people aware of things is important. My personal philosophy for using astrology is to help empower, not frighten. My whole purpose here is to help you feel like you have a stronger sense of who you are so that you can deal with whatever life throws at you. For me, that carries great value, and I hope it does for you too. I also think you don't have to wait to make a change. So yes, there are great times to make changes, and yes, there are great times to commit to something. And yes, a lot of the big disasters do have very dramatic charts. I was just doing an astrological investigation for somebody who has a 20-year pattern. She's had 3 occurrences so far. Every 20 years, they have experienced a near fatal miss. And it started with the Pakistan bombing in 1965. And so they're thinking, I'm coming up to the next time of a 20-year cycle. Now, I was thinking, what has a 20-year cycle? Saturn and Jupiter together. And so we were analyzing everything from that perspective. However, this person currently has Pluto about to cross one of her angles and also conjunct her sun. It's so close. So very much like this person that ShareKindness that I'm looking at this for, they too have Pluto in a very, very sensitive place. And patterns aside, like life is going to carry on being life and it won't consider you necessarily. However, how can we work with this Pluto energy so that you don't spend your whole life like looking over your shoulder, but can get back into that sense of empowerment? That's the thing that I would really like, because you can make a change at any time. And yes, it could be very freeing to use the Pluto transit to cut something out or to leave your husband, your partner, and to go it alone and this, that, and the other. But you can decide to do that now. And then when that transit comes in, you're already moving. Because like if you imagine you're driving in the car right now and you want to turn right, you're already moving. So as you steer your steering wheel, as you turn right, the wheels move. But if you're stationary and you turn your steering wheel right, it doesn't move you right. You have to be moving first. So I think one of the best things you can do is, as there is an approach of a really good transit for you, get moving beforehand, start the wheels in motion, whatever change you want to experience, move it along, make a decision, make a choice. And then when these big transits come up, you're already moving. It helps you, it moves you further. So that's, one of my thoughts about this question. I think I've already said this. Our sensitivities are amplified leading up to astrology that is creating change for us, including everyone that has got something around 29 degrees Capricorn to 3 or 4 degrees in the sign of Aquarius. You're all feeling it right now because Pluto is over something really big in your chart. The 29th degree is also unstable. It's known as being anuretic. It's a changing degree. So Pluto, yes, he's still in the sign of Capricorn, but at 29 degrees, it is breaking down. It's starting to become erratic. It's in the last throes, and it's not expressing itself very well in the sign of Capricorn. And it's kind of getting ready for Aquarius, but it's not there yet. So let's have a look at the astro for the equinox and then the chart of shared kindness. And I've got some comments. So the equinox then. Now, this does come up in my reading. I may well do a separate one, maybe next week, as I look a bit more closely. But I'm looking at the markers for a massive event, and I'm not seeing a massive event. But what I do see is the lead up to lots of big events. Now, as I say, I don't see the lead up to a massive event. I am well aware that right now there are videos on TikTok and on Telegram that are showing there's a storm formation of 3 storms coming up towards the east coast of America. And I've seen a video where somebody's done a progression and how these storms are interacting, and they're kind of whipping into this massive superstorm that looks like it's going to hit sometime next week around the time of the new moon in September. Now, that new moon date is a very, very strong date. It's a very good, strong date for change and a very strong date for clearing. And I do believe that what we're going through at a personal level is like as above, so below. And I think if there is that clearing energy, use it. There is a very deep health-based clearing to help us be more fit for purpose and to help us clear old attitudes, clear our past, and let go of things that are not helpful for us. And I think if you're actively involved in that kind of letting go energy, if you do get buffeted by a storm, like you might be by a storm, but you'll be better prepared for it, But I do think we are in the times where we do need to look out. Could the people in Hawaii, in Maui, know what was about to happen? We can look retrospectively, astrologically, and see things, but you never know when there might be a big storm to pick you off, or a big fire to pick you off, or people with financial interests in clearing land. And there's lots of rumors flying around. So you never know, which is why it's important you take your life into your own hands, and why it's so important that you think for yourself. You decide whose thoughts you want in your head. Do you want the thoughts of the media? Do you want the thoughts of a Vedic astrologer that you already don't trust and who is scaring you? Or do you want your own thoughts? So I recognize we are coming to some very deep times. Now, the first thing that I say first, it's all come out at once. At the time of the equinox, the sun is in opposition to Neptune. And so that is the story arc for the next season, as far as I can see, which is the unraveling of lies, the unraveling of mystery, the unraveling of creative deception. Neptune's really good at it. Neptune rules Hollywood, it rules theatre, everything with veils and layers and little scene props, like a movie being explored. And, you're looking at different scenes. We're all actors in this. And the sun in opposition to Neptune is revealing to us all what part we're playing in a collective evolution, if that is indeed what we're going through. It's also in a square to the moon, and the moon is in a square to Neptune. So the moon square Neptune, I've got this in my chart actually. One of the personal things that we're dealing with is what is true. Like, we feel a lot, and it's very easy for us to think this is the truth because of what I'm feeling. I'm feeling really stirred up right now. However, we need to look at this with fresh eyes and see what's really going on. So there's a lot going on about truth and the unveiling. But Neptune is also about the ocean and the sea and what is coming from the sea. There's a lot of water involved. And I think I did say it's time to watch the water. Now, we've also got Pluto square the nodes. So there's the node there and the south node here, and there's Pluto. Now, Pluto has been squared the node since the end of July and will continue to be. And this is a really strong stepping stone effect for us. We are coming to our collective senses and we are moving up, or maybe moving down. But to me, it feels like we're moving up. We are moving up in our energies, we're moving towards a different kind of civilization. And I think we're co-creating it. Now, this is ongoing. It's separating right now. I can't remember if it's going to apply again, but they are square. So this is a challenging time for us all. Then all month, we've got Venus and Juno, which is very healing, in a trine to Chiron. So I think whatever is going on, we are considering our healing. This is a moment to heal and a moment to commit to love and to ask ourselves, what would love do? Absolutely. Coming up, not just yet, but we will get there over, the next few weeks and months. But we're already in this time. We've got the North Node in a conjunction with Chiron. So there is this definite karmic healing going on in terms of the world. It's what we're struggling with. We're coming to terms with all of our judgments, all of our thoughts, all of the things we've done. And so I can see why some astrologers might say, is this like, what's that word they use about like the end times? Like, is this the end? I guess, yeah. Is this the end time? Are we being pulled into account to account for what we've done in this lifetime? Who knows? We've got Eris coming. Now, I haven't actually got Eris on this chart, but we've got upcoming an Eris and Mars opposition. Now, they're brother and sister. Now, like I say, Eris is one of the new surprising names. So Eris is going to be right here in a conjunction with the North Node, and Mars and the South Node are coming into a conjunction here. They're going to be in opposition throughout October. In truth, they're already there now. And, Eris is about putting things right. She is absolutely hell-bent on getting things cleared. She gets her big old knife out and she clears away anything that is untrue and unjust. She is a justice warrior, really. So we've got like this justice warrior energy in the North Node and also Chiron. That's going to stir people up. And then any time that we've had fire in our bellies from the past, that's going to get stirred up. We are going to be it's like we're all being pulled apart individually and around the world. And so it's very good timing, isn't it, for World War III announcements and things like that, that the media is sowing to us. It's really kind of selling these ideas, pushing these ideas, seeding these ideas that this is going to happen. But I think it's important to take it for ourselves. There has been talk of a storm. There's been talk of a mass awakening. There's been talk of the breaking down of the banking system. There's been talk of the computers going down for years and years and years and years. And the incidence of these stories coming up again and again and again is vibrating faster and faster and faster. And as far as I can see, right now, it's just like the noise in our ears. And so I do think it is likely that we are going into a season where a lot of these things could very well finally come to pass. However, we are co-creating. And if we are all actively working on where we've been lying to ourselves, where we've been hiding stuff about who we really are, if we start working through our own little oppositions inside ourselves, our own little insecurities and perversions and delights and all sorts of different things, if we come face to face with what is polar in ourselves and we can integrate it, I think we can all weather any storm that comes to us because we're going to be stronger for it and we're going to be together and we won't be pulled apart. The most important thing right now, I think, is to integrate as much as we can, integrate these polar energies so that we're feeling balanced. Like when Eris is here at the North Node and Mars is here at the South Node, we want to be here in the middle where we're not getting bashed around. But like if you're on either end of the seesaw, you're going to go up and down. Whereas if you sat in the middle watching it all happen and creating an intention for peace or actively trying to help people find their balance, then I think our world will be shifted in a much more eloquent way. And we are coming up to 2 big eclipses in October as all of this is going on. So yes, I do think we're coming up to an important time. Do I think there's a big event happening on the 23rd or 24th? I can't say. When I looked at the chart of the Pakistan bombing, for instance, or 9/11, for instance, things that have really like made a big difference, a big impact. I would expect to see a much stronger pattern if something was going to take place. But I think we're in the middle of a change, and we're trying to look at everything from a minute by minute, day by day perspective. But I think we need to be looking at the charts from the end of 2 or 3 years and compare them for another 3 or 4 years, because we're right in the middle of a changing cycle. And I think if we were to look at it from that perspective, we could see what was going on. Does that make sense? So anyway, I see ongoing restlessness, the need to find truth, the need to heal, and getting to core wounds and a feeling of uncovering. And I think, I think the media and those in charge of how we run our lives, I think they can launch these things when it suits them. And we won't, and whatever is launched will be for the maximum impact it can have. I think there are very strong things to distract us right now and to bring us off our path of joy, peace and happiness and grace. And so the biggest thing you can do right now to help yourself is to stay in peace and grace as much as you can. So anyway, let's have a look at your chart, Shared Kindness. Now, I know I've got the date right. I don't know that I've got the time right, because you said Uranus is right on your on your IC. I don't have it right there yet, so I've obviously haven't quite calculated it right, but I'm guessing your ascendant is right around here. So got Capricorn ascendant, Saturn's your ruler, and natally it's in the 4th house. That tends to that can create quite a fatalistic way of looking at life, and slightly, you have most likely, until you're able to learn to have a different pattern, it does kind of give a very grounded, but sometimes a little bit down, a sort of dampened emotion at home. It's quite serious, like the 4th house. And you're right in your message to me, it's intercepted, the angle of the IC and then the next node going into the 5th. They're both ruled by Mercury, because they're both in the sign of Gemini. So it's a very, very tight little space that you've got there. You've got Pallas Athena to do with your strategy, and how you think, the thinking patterns that you have. Your moon in Gemini, I don't think the moon's that comfortable in Gemini, because the moon is all about feeling and Gemini is all about thinking. So you got this strategic patterns, your moon, which has more of a thinking function than a feeling function, and then Saturn that is kind of dampening. And so I think it's very easy for you, especially if things aren't supporting you. If you're not getting any support, I think it would be very easy for you to get very down in your thinking patterns. And I think your survival really rests on learning how to think beyond what is dampening you. And I know you share some very grand visions of how you'd like your life to be. And I can see them happening. And I can also see that you'll need to really apply your future ideas of joy and peace and sharing and community life, and be very, very mindful that you could talk yourself out of it with this Saturn and moon. The Saturn is almost like the parent, the person that looks after others, and then the moon is the child, and you've got them together, really stopping you from being a grown-up. I mean, obviously you are a grown-up. Like, one of them will take precedence. I think it would be your Saturn rather than your moon. But it's almost like you're not allowed to be a child and you're not allowed to have your own needs. And it's almost like there is this stronger part of you. And that may well be projected onto a partner, or you may have had a history of having partners or parents that have been very strong and very dominant. And so you've just got used to being squashed in your emotions and not having space to have your needs met. So I see that as being a very, very deep thing. And with Pluto right now over your ascendant, that's just going to be compounding it and compacting it. So no wonder you feel like life is pitched against you right now, or that it's difficult to think, it's difficult to remove yourself from this marriage that you've been in since you were 18, and now you've already gone through your Chiron return. So you're 52. Or you just had it's your birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday for tomorrow, by the way. So this is quite compounding. And it's reminding you of all these things and bringing up fears, because Pluto's very good at scaring you, so that you don't quite make that move. Now, interestingly, you've got Ceres right on the descendant. Ceres is where we care and where we mother and when we look after people. And yours is right on the aspect of partners, you know, almost like it's your lifelong mission to have to care for others, or that you've met someone that needs to be cared for. And I can see you've got a really caring personality. You know, it's joined to Neptune at the top and Jupiter here. You know, in Neptune and Jupiter don't come together that often. And when they do, it's a huge energy in your chart, and it's in a conjunction to the midheaven, like how you stand strong in the world. And I have to say, I've got a lot of clients that have got their Neptune in a conjunction with the midheaven, or the IC in particular. Makes it very difficult to stand strong in the world. Because, you know, down here at the bottom, your world is like on shifting sands, and you see through lots of different veils. Up here at the top, you're trying to stand strong in a world that almost doesn't appear to exist, or it appears so transcendental and so veiled and different. You don't know which reality you're in almost. It's difficult for you to make a hard and fast plan whereby you can attain that, and with Neptune and Jupiter in a conjunction together, it makes you very hopeful, very expansive, very dreamy. And do you have the energy to bring that beautiful, delicious dreaminess out into your sharing into the world? Now, I believe you do, because you've got this lovely sextile to Pluto. You've also got this really lovely connection to the ascendant. It's like life has put you into the right situations to learn about caring, and to learn about boundaries, and to learn about a bigger vision, having a much bigger plan that becomes so big that it's almost so compelling you can't fail but to achieve it. However, down here is very compelling too, and you get really pulled in. And you've got this very tight T-square here that plays out a lot, involving your mind. So I think the first thing that you might possibly choose to do is to get into the best mental shape of your life, seeing as your feelings are expressed as thoughts, and also seeing as you've got this square to Mercury as well, and this very opposing Saturn there, and Pallas Athena. I think you need to get your mind absolutely right for the purpose. So if I was in your shoes right now, ShareKindness, I would absolutely think about what modality has worked for you to get your mind as straight as possible. Is it like NLP? Is it access consciousness, hypnotherapy? Is it breath work? I would try and do something a bit structured to actually rewire your thinking. And then I suggest something like, not ShareKindness, but loving kindness, some kind of loving kindness meditation that allows you to feel your feelings fully, and to reintegrate those parts of you that have been chopped off. Like, this is a very big dreamer, a very big, vulnerable, dreamy aspect, really big and dreamy, and it can change worlds for sure. And it's been cut off. Like someone's like cut you from your dreams. And like right now, it does look like the relationship has cut you off, and Pluto's highlighting that. And you may well notice that the relationship you found yourself in has helped you to stay cut from your dreams. I would suggest that, there was a much bigger reason as to why you became the permanent carer of somebody that had such strong needs that your needs would be ignored. And it probably is around the childhood and what you learned about yourself from your parents. The moon and Saturn can represent mum and dad, and having them both there in that very tight kind of fermented place is huge. I did also put Nessus in. It's a dwarf planet, very much to do with abuse, and he's in a square to Venus, which figures that you feel like you're being abused by the person you love, or the person you've come to love and care for. But like, I'm so amazed by all these lovely, all this lovely sacred geometry you've got in your chart. Now, some of the things that are going on right now, obviously you've got Pluto going here, dancing over the ascendant, but Saturn, obviously it's conjunct your moon, but right now it's going square to your moon, or it will be. It will be in a square to your moon, and that's very, very difficult. Saturn's also going into a square with itself, also difficult. So I've had a look at what's strengthening, and then also what's destabilizing, and then I've got some thoughts about when you might want to make a move, and so on and so forth. So I'm just going to rattle through these. So right now, what's strengthening, really strengthening, is you've got Pluto in a trine. It's exact right now. And it's also sextile your beautiful dreamers aspect here. It's beautiful. And it's also trine your moon, Pallas, IC, and also Saturn. This is really, really strong stuff. You really could change your life and like change the whole vibration of it for sure. You've also got Neptune very slowly coming into a trine with this energy here. It's not quite, well, it is already in a trine, and it's just going to get stronger and stronger over the years. I see that Venus retrograde that ended here on your south node, it actually ended a little bit here, I think. I think it ended at 6 degrees, was it? Oh, no, you're right. It ended at 12 degrees. So it did cross your south node. And then Mercury right now, like going over your sun and your Venus and your sun and down towards Juno, that is going to cause some disruption. So I think the two retrogrades, the personal retrogrades, Pluto coming up, then those messages of fear, you're feeling it already. Saturn's coming into a square with your Saturn and your moon. You're going to be feeling it's a very, very strong time. And you're not very, it's almost like you've learned to not feel because you're feeling function here. Oh, I think I've just stopped sharing. I don't know what I did there. Let's remove that. So it feels to me like it's time to get out of the thinking and into the feeling, but I think you need to think your way into it. I think you do need to like work out how to work with the thoughts you've got and then be coaxed back into the thinking side of it. And I'm really, really sure you can do that. How do I present this? I'm not trying to, oh, there it is. Okay. So I see all these things as actually been quite strengthening because the retrogrades have got you thinking. What's destabilizing? You've got Saturn moving into a square. I've said that already. Mercury and Venus retrograde are also destabilizing as well as strengthening. And Neptune in a long-term opposition to Sun and Venus is deeply destabilizing, making you realize where you've been idealistic and it's at a cost to you. Now, like I say, it's never too late to start again, and there's always a time to change. The September new moon is interesting. It's right over your Venus, so it could show time to say, okay, I'm calling time, we're done. You got Pluto crossing the ascendant in opposition to Ceres, cutting you off from the caregiving functions. You've also got transiting Mars in a conjunction with Uranus. Again, that's a cutting effect. You've also got transiting Venus and Juno right on your south node. You did mention in that message to me that have you got like some kind of past life that's keeping you there? You might do. But again, it's causing that shift. So the 15th is big. If you're not going to leave him and you're not ready to leave him, it's a big deal. I'm just going with the words that you shared with me. I would say make an intention that you find yourself in a new situation where you feel free to be yourself and stick to that. Keep that as your lovely guiding light, that you feel completely whole in yourself. And then that's your new intention that moves you forward. The September the 23rd equinox. So is it going to be a big disaster? It might be, but how is it affecting you? Well, it's interesting. The sun is right over your Pluto, which is emphasizing fear. All of your fears could be manifest. However, I would get wise to that. And so start working. You've got 14 days to work on feeling more stable within yourself. And there are so many different tools and there are so many different meditation videos and hypnotherapy videos online. I've done some even on the channel, The Barefoot Broadcast. If you go on there, you'll see some videos, but you can go on to Spotify and find them. There's lots of free help everywhere. And you may well know somebody with a really good healing modality that can help. Then there's the transiting moon is trying your Juno and Vertex, which is here. So they're very helpful. But again, the 15th of September seems more strong for you. Future transits, I think, are worth bearing in mind. The eclipse on the 14th of October, the sun is at 21 degrees in the sign of Libra, which would be here, and it's exactly trine Nessus, so it's changing something to do with the abuse you've been feeling. Obviously, the Pluto's crossing the ascendant. Saturn is moving more into a square with your Saturn. Now, there is a Uranus-Jupiter conjunction in April 2024 that is going to be making a grand trine with your Vesta and your Venus. That's a very exciting time, which could be another time to move if you haven't already moved, if you're wanting a change in the way you are related to somebody. Like I said, the long-term Neptune opposition to the Sun and Venus, it's coming to an end now, and eventually it will be in opposition to Pluto, which again is another sort of big leaving time. And I didn't realize just how close your Uranus was to your IC, but you say it's right there. That's a real indication of a changing relationship. In fact, Uranus crossed my IC when I came to the end of an 11-year relationship, and boy, did it change that. And that was also going on while I had Pluto over my Sun. So you have got some aspects that I definitely shared when I was coming to the end of an 11-year relationship and left it. So I hope that is helpful to you. Oh, I realised I didn't put those last screens on. I forgot to add them in. That I had everything all laid out on a chart. So my apologies there. But anyway, I really hope this was helpful for you, Shared Kindness. And also for anyone that's being panicked by the thought of an equinox time, that there's big storms and stuff. You know, my big advice is be okay in yourself. And if you're okay in yourself, you know, like, yes, it does matter what people throw at you. And yes, they can kind of knock you sideways at a moment's glance, you know, but there's nothing that we can do about other people's malintention towards us. All we can do is protect ourselves, clear ourselves, and stay as positive. I almost think if you don't claim what you're going to be doing in life, life will take like your space. It's like, you have to claim how you want to live your life, a bit like you have to allocate where your money is going. Because if you don't allocate it, something will come up, your washing machine will break, and all of a sudden that savings gone, that thing that you were hoping for. So allocate your money, allocate your time, allocate yourself a dream, a big dream, and work towards it. Because if you do, you're less likely to be thrown off course by other people's malintentions. So anyway, lots of love to you wherever you are in the world. Take care, and I'll see you on the other side. Bye for now.